this is why you're here. This is the star of the show. This is the BD790i X3D. This is the mobile CPU from AMD on a motherboard from Minisforum. This is the 7945H X3D, 16-core, 32-thread, 128 megs of cache, up to 5.4 gigahertz with Radeon 610M, dual-channel DDR5 up to 5200, two 2280s, PCIe 5.0 X16. This is sort of the secret to building a really high performance, but also low power and compact system. So I've got a couple of different fractal cases here. This one and the Era 2 that we did videos on. It's got the lovely wood grain texture. Obviously we're gonna do a build, but first let's take a look at the motherboard. Oh yeah, and check this out. Dual 64 gig DIMMs from Crucial. For several videos and several years now, I've been saying that mobile CPUs may begin to eat into the low end of the desktop market because this 790i X3D is by no means low end. It's extremely high end for what it is. There are some definite trade-offs here, but the price to performance ratio here is pretty solid. Yes, you can buy an AM5 X3D CPU, and yes, you'll get better performance, you'll have a better board and better connectivity and probably better support, but this as a vehicle, as a chariot for one of our fabulous GPUs, AMD and NVIDIA are both well represented here. We've got a 5080, the Asus Prime. This one, it looks almost identical to the Radeon version. It's just ever so slightly different. And our ASRock Steel Legend. We're gonna take a look at some different configurations here. And our Mini ITX motherboard, which is great for our Mini ITX cases. For me, it would be a tough choice choosing between this and a desktop board that maybe I would choose a lower end processor but a higher end motherboard. But I could also just get 16 cores right now. It's like, it's kind of a tough choice. You'd have a better upgrade path because this is soldered. This is a unit, this is not upgradable. This is not AM5. Both the motherboard and the processor and the heatsink are basically one unit. We also have a pretty beefy M.2 heatsink. Depending on which model you get from Minisforum, you don't always get the M.2 heatsink. I like it because when I'm doing a build like this, I'm going to use a relatively higher-ish or higher-end M.2 and something like the Samsung 980 or 990, especially now that the new Samsung models are out. The 980 and the 990 are on a little bit more of a sale. It'll come with a heatsink, and this is the perfect heatsink setup. 24-pin ATX power. So 3 4-pin fan headers, 2 here, 1 there. This one that's off to itself is for the CPU. Front panel connection, 5 gigabit front panel. It's got built-in Wi-Fi. I really wish that these boards had a Type-C header because both of our cases have a Type-C option. So the Type-C port is going to be dead on the front panel, but you still have one Type-C at the rear, so okay, it's fine. We have 2 USB Type-A ports, Type-C port, display port, and HDMI at the rear, 2 USB 2.0 ports, and our 5.1 analog audio solution. Oh, and at the rear, I almost forgot, 2.5 gig Ethernet. You will have to add a fan to the CPU cooler. You can't just run this naked. You gotta have ample airflow over this. We'll do more about that in a second. It also comes with some assembly required rear I/O shield. Unlike most normal rear I/O shields, this one actually screws into the motherboard instead of snapping into the case. So you have to do that first. I'll show you. And then you have a cheap but highly effective antenna for your Wi-Fi solution. This is a great antenna. This is your mounting hardware for your fan. So these brackets and screws are designed to hold a normal thickness fan, not a slimline fan. I've used slimline fans before in the past with boards like this. Oh, did they come with extra screws? Oh, Minisforum has learned. They've included slimline screws for me. Good job, guys. That's amazing. So Arctic makes some really cool fans that are like the perfect pairing with this. So installing the rear I/O, it's 2 nuts and 2 screws. You gotta take the nuts off the Wi-Fi antenna, or not if you didn't get the optional Wi-Fi antenna, and put in 2 Phillips screws for your HDMI and your DisplayPort. Oh look, I'm using my LTTstore.com precision screwdriver. It is actually a lot of fun. It's surprisingly well made. TStore.com. Oh wait, I'm gonna need more screws. For the CPU fan, Arctic makes some really cool stuff. The P12 PWM, P12 Max, and the P12 Slim are all options. Because of the Minisforum setup, it is a little special in terms of fan mounting. And so you've got a choice of shorter or longer screws. And for the P12 Slim, it's gonna work great. The shorter set of screws is perfect for the P12 Slim. So Minisforum has learned. They watched my reviews. Madness. For now, I'm actually gonna use the P12 Max, which will require the longer baggie of screws. You can really see there's quite a difference in screw length there. Actually gonna put these back in the box and save them, because you never know. And so the very longest ones are perfect for the P12 Max. That's what we're using. Even though the M.2 slot is toolless, you're gonna need to take out some Phillips screws in order to take the heatsink off. You can't take the heatsink off if the CPU fan is in place. It's a little tricky though. Don't forget to remove the protective layer of plastic from the thermal compound so that there's a nice thermal connection between your M.2 and the heatsink. Otherwise, it's not a very effective heatsink. Now memory, 64 gigs per DIMM. This platform has got 128 gigs of memory. That might be why you tuned in. You can now get 64 gig DIMMs for the desktop. A smaller number of DIMMs, like on a desktop where you got 4 slots, it's usually gonna hurt your speed, the maximum speed the DIMMs can run at, if you choose to populate all 4 slots. Platforms like this one, you only have 2 slots. Some of the really high performance AM5 systems also only have 2 slots, like the overclocking boards, a couple of them. And that's because you can run the memory faster because there's not as much dangling copper to pick up interference. Me, I just want to be absurd. 128 gigs of memory in a small form factor system like this, it's going to get some people's attention. And that's the name of the game, isn't it? Attention. Moment of existential dread. Our Era system is a little bigger, and that's the one I'm going to build in. For the power supply, I'm opting to use a Cooler Master. This is an 1100 watt power supply. We could put a 5090 in here, I think. The reason I hesitate a little bit is the 5090 has a double flow through design, and mounting the GPU vertically might be a bit of a problem for that. The other problem is those are PCIe Gen 5. Both of these cases only come with PCIe Gen 4 riser cables. Might be a bit of a problem. Fans in the bottom of this fractal case are also configured to pull air in from the bottom and send it upward, which can help, but that's not how the power supply is mounted, which is annoying. Well, I've got a little bit of bad news. The Era doesn't quite have enough room for the fan. So the fan sort of bangs up against the side of the case here. Even though I can move the motherboard spine, I could move the motherboard spine down a little bit and have a little bit more room for the fan to like slide up under this lip, but instead I'm just gonna flip this bracket around, mount it a different way, and only use 2 screws for the fan. Both options are valid. I think you'll find this RTX 5080 installation appealing. This is the Asus Prime RTX 5080. We reviewed this separately, be sure to check that out. Now, why the Prime as opposed to the Founders Edition? Isn't the Founders Edition smaller? Yes, but the flow-through design of the Founders Edition is maybe not what we want in this configuration because of the layout of this case. Look at that, plenty of room. We've even got enough clearance for a right angle connector. Now, the 5080 is not 600 watts, thankfully, so we're not going to play some sort of experiment to see if the cable has problems, but I think we'll be fine with the 5080. But let's get this finished up, put together, and do some benchmarking. Maybe even get a quick tour of that BIOS. First boot up is going to take a little while to train that 64 or the 128 gigs of memory to 64 gig DIMMs, and that is okay. Booted. Our initial performance in CPU-Z and AIDA64 looking pretty good. It's about where I'd expect. 63 gigabytes per second main memory bandwidth. Again, that's DDR5 5600 running at 5200, the maximum supported speed on this platform. Latency coming in at 93 nanoseconds. It's with hypervisor, so it's about a 10 nanosecond penalty. Overall, pretty good. CPU package power, as reported by Hardware Info 64, just under 100 watts. And our cooling solution is keeping the CPU well under 80 C, about 72 C nominal at a full 16 core load. Quite a bit less than that for gaming. All right, let's take a quick tour of our BIOS. So yeah, all in all, yes, it's not as fast as a desktop X3D part, but this is a darn fast X3D part. And because we're limited to DDR5 5200, well, the BIOS is unlocked. You can do some stuff in the BIOS. That's maybe for a different video. But because we're kind of limited, because this is a mobile platform, DDR5 6000 still is the optimal sweet spot, so on and so forth, the X3D cache makes up for the memory being the weak equation. If you watch some of my other reviews with these motherboards, it's like, the memory latency is a little high, you can't get quite the same performance on a desktop board, but with the X3D cache, that negates some of that downside. And you see that in the gaming benchmarks. It makes sense. So, bottom line, this could be a viable option for building a quiet and pretty powerful machine. I mean, this is an RTX 5080. And you could use an RTX 5080 in here over a 4090, even though a 4090 is going to be a little faster, because it's physically smaller and it's going to use somewhat less power. I don't know if that's really true. The 5000 series really, 4090 power efficiency versus 5080 power efficiency, be cutting it close. The 5090 is not as power efficient. They really turned it up to 11 with 600 watts, but you get the performance. So, okay, I don't know that I would cram 600 watts in this case. I definitely would probably add more cooling to the top here, but keep in mind that your bracket at the back here is only 2 slots. I couldn't run the Tai-Chi 9070 because it's a true 3-slot card. The Steel Legend 9070, well, 9070 XT Tai-Chi, the 9070 non-XT Steel Legend would also work great in here, and that is a great high-performance card, even for 4K, that costs much less than the 5080. And so that, or if you prefer the Asus version, it's physically almost identical. You do have the 2 8-pin connections instead of the NVIDIA style, 12v2 connection, but all of these options will work in this system and give you a terrific gaming experience, and 16 cores is a terrific productivity experience. So, yeah, it's great. The other downsides, BIOS updates, not enough USB ports, need more USB-C, USB Type-C header, so on and so forth. But there's a cost trade-off there. You're getting all the performance and all the gaming stuff, and that's really awesome, but you lose a few things too. Well, this is level 1. This has been a quick look at Minisforum's 790i ITX with the X3D processor. I like it. Fun times. All right. Well, this is level 1. I'm signing out. You can find me in the level 1 forums if you want to see me do a different build or run some other tests or anything like that. Bonus Linux lightning round. Everything works great in Linux. Look at that. It's amazing. Good job, Linux. Good job, Minisforum. All right, I'm signing out, and I'll see you there.